While I thought its spiritual predecessor CRYSTAR was owed many gold stars, its new robot-filled story CRYMACHINA trades purgatory for dead space and sets out to go beyond it, adding emotion where it shouldn't be to create a story that goes deeper. I started my journey having fun with its action, but was a little concerned that it was going to be a more shallow take on its emotional concept with a shorter runtime and loss of detail in some areas, but this concern was quickly erased as I got to know its cast of robot girls and their desire to live, fighting down various machines to gain humanity and be accepted as humans in the post-apocalyptic state of civilization. If you like reading law, moving twists, and director Fuyuki Hayashi's dramatic world so far, CRYMACHINA brings these things together again while bringing in the best parts of his other games to tell his smoothest story yet that deserves an even bigger gold star as it made me fall in love with its robot and family of girls to play with. CRYMACHINA begins with an immediate nod towards death in its first moments again, with a memorable opening scene that shows off its stunning new graphics and new protagonist Laban, before she awakens thousands of years in the future where humanity, who she happens to hate, has actually perished. Lucky for her, she's one of the chosen few given a second chance by Enoa, a deus ex machina that can reconstruct the human psyche, and the reason she's been given the second chance at life, this time with a robot body to fight with. Her new life in the floating structure in space called Eden comes with a new purpose. If her and the other two girls Enoa has revived become recognized by the system as real humans, they'll have power over the domain and be able to live in peace in this new environment. It's with this they begin collecting E cross P, getting to know each other, and finding the truth about Eden as its systems and truth behind them all becomes revealed, with plenty of fearful and tearful moments to make this story hit the emotive highs and lows that it should. Exploring Eden means fighting your way to claim each of its domains, which means entering its system codes and jumping into its different stages. In these stages, you'll engage in active battles and the occasional platforming moment when exploring that makes its stages feel much more dynamic in this entry. This is also on top of a total visual overhaul that uses detailed character models that make everything look stunning, especially on PS5, and this beauty helps make up for one of the things that some may have had an issue with in CRYSTAR. While there are side battles to play with if you look for them, CRYMACHINA's stages are still pretty linear in their design, pretty much all boiling down to running down a few halls with some battles, maybe with a side of platforming to do here and there if you get into collecting gear, but a lot of them can feel like beautiful straight paths that are just leading to the next part of the story. I didn't mind this so much thanks to its gorgeous music and Dead Space vibe that had me enjoying the atmosphere and the conversations the girls had as I made my way through, but also may have some feeling like the visual overhaul isn't quite enough to make it engaging if that's how you felt with its predecessor. If you're worried about that though, it may just win you over with its battles that are fast-paced with responsive action gameplay that requires you to keep up with mechanics like countering and dodging with some precision if you want to stand a chance of winning. If you're like me and are much more used to getting your way to victory through brute force, CRYMACHINA does make this easy enough to get the hang of with the flashes of red and purple that come before you need to get on the defensive, and once I'd got in the rhythm of that, it felt like one of the most satisfying active systems I've played with in recent times, as I felt like I was utilizing all of it. It did take me a little longer to feel like I was getting the most out of it outside of battles with things like equipment or individual leveling that in the end I just kept things simple with, and as long as I kept up with its recommended levels, I was able to enjoy some satisfying challenges with battles big and small, and it's certainly a good de-stressor to play with as it lets you beat stuff up and feel like you're doing it well too. Outside of its active element, progression feels well paced, if not a little predictable, with there usually being 3 to 4 stages before a chapter end boss, an optional side dungeon to help you learn more about its world much like CRYSTAR's Memoirs of the Dead, and chapter events to give the character building necessary to make you care about everything. My enjoyment of its story would have been nothing without how flashy and zippy it felt to take on its bosses and areas though, and I came to personally enjoy how quick they are as they provided the bit of gameplay I wanted before getting back to a story that I also wanted to continue as well, with plenty of conversations on the map to keep that being the main thread going through the game. Everything else surrounding its linear moments made it work for me and relies on more than just special attacks to make combat engaging, having every part paired with something interesting and keeping my attention as I moved chapter to chapter in its story that demanded my attention too. I love the Fuyuki Hayashi directed CRYSTAR enough to try his next directing effort Monarch and have love for both of them in some way, although especially in the case of the latter, I could find flaws in the way they attempted to introduce twists that created unnecessary repetition that even saw me drop that last one partway through trying for its true ending. I'm pleased to say that this is gone in CRYMACHINA though, and it's better for it, but it also plays into some of its previous themes to keep you guessing, paired with some beautiful pre-rendered cutscenes, and it's pretty successful at telling the well-written story written by Naoki Hisaya, and everything executed in this high-quality form with fantastic vocal performances make for a story I was happy to dive down the rabbit hole for, whether in its scenes or reading its bundles of lore that once again fulfilled the things I've loved from Hayashi's games so far. This love of lore was just one of the things I've noticed have me enjoying his work so much so far. There's always great visual flair and combination of styles, a sense of theater and melodrama in the story and writing that have lines feel potent, and I feel like the localization probably had some harder cultural things to make sense of in English this time around, such as how the girls greet each other that seemed to come through well and played the deep role in the story that they should. Dark backstories help give each character depth, and now that this time the story isn't wasting time putting you back in the timeline to piece things together, it's able to move forward strengthening its key themes of love, humanity, and family, and had me gladly crying about its mechanical girls by the end thanks to how well it used this time to express their feelings deeply and appropriately for this kind of game. I'll always adore CRYSTAR, but from a quality perspective, CRYMACHINA does feel the better of the two in the way it's able to stand on the strength of its world and character building through lore and events rather than abstract repetition. From this, I felt engaged fully from start to finish in my near 30 hours, and even happily spent what was likely hours reading its lore from the before world and enemies, as the picture of humanity and the aftermath of its world events never stopped being fascinating. If you like the ideas behind CRYSTAR but didn't love the execution, I would definitely recommend CRYMACHINA, as even though it switches up purgatory for a floating space structure, it has this Hayashi world hit exactly as it should, and hope is the trend we see for his games going forward in the future. While progression doesn't feel repetitive this time, thanks to its lore and the joy of playing it again while knowing how it ends, there could be meaning to replaying CRYMACHINA, even if it's not necessarily something I'm gonna do soon. When I finished, I immediately went back to some of the stages from the beginning that had super bosses to fight that you're leveled out of beating at the start, which is a fun way to gather some extra gear and to enjoy stages you've played before, along with a few other post-game things that can spice things up if you're not done with this robot world yet. For example, if you like the phone number system in Monarch, there's also a better version of this in CRYMACHINA where you can find server codes to let you fight extra stages. Some of these are connected to certain demi-cherubs that can help you collect personality data to learn more about the old world, but I also credit some of my finishing it within 30 hours to finding a level 90 stage through pure trial and error that I would use to grind, which maybe isn't the most honorable or explorative way of finishing, but did stop me repeating longer stages and keeping the story, and is much more forgiving than Monarch's version of this that was always ready to throw you into a stage you had no chance of winning, so it's worth playing around with, especially when you're feeling underleveled. The only real bummer I've found is that its Switch version isn't the place I'll be playing around with extra content, which is fine as I love how it looks on PS5, but also a small bummer as I can see its stages being one of those good things to do on the go. In my time with the Switch demo, I found a bit of slowdown when multiple enemies were on the field that made me less able to do that all-important countering and dodging well. It's still playable from what I've seen, but once I'd spent more time with the PS5 version, there was no comparison for which one felt better to me, but maybe if you're planning to play with the casual mode setting, this could be less of an issue. For my time playing on PS5 though, I found myself very happy with the experience I had by the end of it, and since its ending felt satisfactory and there doesn't seem to be any deeper extra campaigns hiding anywhere, I'm happy to leave this interesting world behind as another full of tears and an emotive story that I really enjoyed. Whether there's another part of this Cry series or another Hayashi game around the corner, I can only hope we see more of the emotive flavor these stories bring, as I'd be more than happy to experience another interesting story like this soon. To a CRYSTAR fan like me, CRYMACHINA shined beyond my expectations of it being an emotive and interesting game, bringing in more polish and restraint with engaging combat to make for a polished experience that reflected its themes in a new way. The story of Enoa and the girls is ready to bring you in as it slowly reveals more about this family of girls that makes you want to protect them and their relationships, and its descent into dead space also descends into mad twists while still respecting the player's time, and became a story I found seamless to keep engaged in, from its heavy breathing opening moments to my own sobbing as it ended. It's definitely going to get the CRYSTAR audience in, but I would also recommend it to those looking for a story that doesn't take much time for a JRPG, but is ready to tell a story with plenty of lore and ideas to dive into if you let it. And while it's a jump from purgatory, its new theme seems to breathe life into this kind of storytelling I'd hoped its team was capable of, and have me looking forward to the emotive direction that their next story will take. Thank you for watching this video. Let me know in the comments below if you've tried CRYMACHINA, and if you have, what did you think of it? You can like and share this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe to my channel for more JRPG content like this, and ring that bell to get notifications on whenever I post so you don't miss a thing. You can check out more videos here, and you can find me on social media on X, Facebook, and Instagram, all at JRPG Jungle. Links to those will be in the description below. Thank you to NIS for the code, and until next time, thank you, bye!